What if the barriers blocking your wealth, health, and happiness were never external, but hidden within a spiritual code few are taught to recognize? This message uncovers the unseen patterns that govern prosperity, physical well-being, and inner peace, revealing how alignment with divine wisdom unlocks breakthroughs that effort alone cannot achieve. When the code is understood, struggle gives way to flow, and ordinary living transforms into purposeful abundance. There is a truth many people sense deep within their spirit, but cannot fully explain. Abundance is not random. Wealth, health, peace, and fulfillment are not distributed by luck alone, nor are they reserved for a select few. They operate according to a hidden code, an invisible system of laws that governs increase long before money appears, before healing manifests, and before happiness becomes consistent. Most people struggle not because they lack effort, intelligence, or faith, but because they are unaware of this code and remain misaligned with it. The hidden code of abundance is not about chasing wealth. It is about understanding the spiritual architecture behind it. Just as the universe operates through precise laws, gravity, seasons, cause and effect, abundance also flows through laws that cannot be broken, only obeyed or ignored. Many work tirelessly, pray passionately, and dream endlessly, yet remain stuck because effort without alignment produces exhaustion, not overflow. Abundance begins in the unseen. Long before wealth reaches the hands, it must pass through the mind, the heart, and the spirit. Thoughts shape direction. Beliefs create permission. Inner posture determines capacity. When these internal realms are disordered, external results become unstable or delayed. This is why two people can perform the same actions and experience entirely different outcomes. One is aligned with the code, the other is not. The hidden code reveals that abundance is attracted, not forced. Striving alone does not unlock doors that alignment opens effortlessly. When inner beliefs contradict outer desires, the system resists. A person may desire wealth, yet secretly believe they are unworthy of it. They may pray for health, yet live in constant fear. They may seek happiness while feeding bitterness and resentment. These inner contradictions short-circuit the flow of abundance. True abundance responds to coherence. When thought, belief, intention, and action move in the same direction, the code activates. This is why clarity is power. Confusion blocks increase. Fear distorts perception. Doubt fractures momentum. The hidden code demands integrity between the inner world and the outer pursuit. Wealth, in its purest sense, is not money. It is flow. Money is only one expression of that flow. Health is another. Peace is another. Favor is another. When flow is blocked internally, all forms of abundance are restricted externally. This explains why some people gain wealth but lose health, or achieve success but live in anxiety. They accessed one layer of the code while ignoring others. The code teaches balance. It teaches order. It teaches that abundance must be sustained, not just achieved. Sudden gain without inner readiness often leads to sudden loss. This is not punishment, it is correction. The system protects itself. If capacity does not match increase, collapse follows. That is why alignment must come before increase. Alignment before increase is one of the most misunderstood principles of prosperity. Many believe that once they receive more, they will become better, calmer, more generous, more faithful. But the code operates in reverse. Who you become determines what you receive. Increase does not change character, it exposes it. Wealth does not heal insecurity, it amplifies it. Success does not remove fear, it magnifies it if alignment is missing. Alignment begins with order. Inner order produces outer stability. When values are clear, decisions become clean. When purpose is defined, distractions lose power. When identity is rooted, comparison fades. The code responds to internal structure. A chaotic inner world cannot sustain ordered abundance. This is why patience is part of alignment. Rushing ahead of readiness creates unnecessary struggle. Delay is not denial, often it is preparation. Alignment is not passive waiting. It is active refinement. It is the process of becoming internally capable of handling externally what you are asking for spiritually. Many ask for increase without adjusting their habits, mindset, or environment. They want new results while repeating old patterns. But the code does not negotiate with contradiction. Alignment requires honesty. It asks difficult questions. Are your actions consistent with your prayers? Do your daily choices support your long-term desires? Are you disciplined in private while seeking reward in public? Alignment also involves release. Certain mindsets, relationships, and behaviors cannot coexist with the next level of abundance. Not everything that is familiar is compatible with where you are going. The code demands space. Increase requires room. Holding on to old limitations crowds out new possibilities. One of the greatest alignment shifts occurs when a person stops seeing abundance as something to prove their worth and starts seeing it as something to steward with responsibility. When wealth becomes a tool rather than an identity, it flows more freely. When success becomes service rather than ego, resistance dissolves. The code favors those who understand purpose over possession. Gratitude plays a critical role in alignment, not as a polite expression, but as a state of recognition. Gratitude signals awareness. It acknowledges what is already working, already growing, already forming. The code responds to recognition. Complaining blinds perception, gratitude sharpens it. What you consistently acknowledge, you empower. Alignment also means accepting timing. Human urgency often clashes with divine order. The code operates on precision, not pressure. Acting too early can be as damaging as acting too late. Wisdom is knowing when to move and when to wait without losing faith or momentum. True alignment trusts the process while preparing for the outcome. When alignment is established, increase becomes natural. Opportunities appear without force. Connections form without manipulation. Resources arrive without desperation. This does not mean effort disappears. It means effort becomes effective. Energy is no longer wasted fighting resistance, but invested where flow already exists. The hidden code of abundance reveals a profound truth. You do not chase abundance, you align with it. And alignment always precedes expansion. When the inner world is calibrated, the outer world responds. When the foundation is solid, the structure can rise. When identity is stable, increase becomes sustainable. Those who unlock this code stop living in cycles of frustration and begin living in patterns of growth. They understand that abundance is not a destination, but a condition, a state of alignment where wealth, health, and happiness are natural outcomes rather than constant struggles. This is the power of the hidden code. And this is why alignment is not optional, it is essential. Healing is often misunderstood as a physical process alone, but true healing begins much deeper. The body is not isolated from the mind, and the mind is not separated from the spirit. They are interconnected, constantly communicating, constantly influencing one another. When spiritual balance is disrupted, the body eventually speaks through fatigue, tension, illness, or chronic discomfort. These are not merely physical signals, they are messages calling attention to an inner imbalance that has gone unaddressed. Spiritual balance does not mean a life without stress or difficulty. It means living in proper alignment between belief, emotion, thought, and action. When these areas are out of harmony, the body absorbs the conflict. Prolonged fear, unresolved anger, guilt, resentment, or anxiety create pressure in the unseen long before symptoms appear in the seen. Healing, therefore, is not only about treatment, it is about restoration of balance. Many seek healing while continuing to live in emotional chaos. They ask for strength but refuse rest. They desire peace but feed worry. They want renewal while clinging to patterns that drain life. The system of creation does not operate in contradiction. Healing flows when resistance is removed, not when it is ignored. Spiritual balance creates an environment where the body can respond naturally to restoration. One of the most powerful aspects of spiritual balance is inner permission. Many people unconsciously believe they must suffer, struggle, or endure pain as part of their identity. They may not say it aloud, but their inner narrative rejects healing before it arrives. Healing requires acceptance. You must believe you are allowed to be whole. When worthiness is questioned, healing is delayed. Balance also involves boundaries. Constant overextension weakens the body and clouds the mind. When a person lives without limits, emotionally, mentally, or physically, the system collapses under pressure. Spiritual balance teaches when to give and when to withdraw, when to act and when to pause. Rest is not weakness, it is wisdom. Renewal happens in stillness as much as in action. The body responds to truth. When the inner world becomes honest, the outer world begins to recover. Suppressed emotions do not disappear, they relocate. Unexpressed pain often manifests physically. Healing begins when truth is acknowledged without fear or shame. Awareness dissolves tension. Acceptance releases resistance. Spiritual balance also requires forgiveness, not as an emotional favor to others, but as a physical necessity for oneself. Unforgiveness stores tension in the body. It hardens the nervous system. It interrupts peace. Forgiveness does not excuse behavior, it releases bondage. Healing accelerates when the weight of resentment is removed. As balance is restored, energy returns. Clarity sharpens. The body begins to respond differently because the inner atmosphere has changed. Healing is not forced, it is allowed. This is the first key. Restoration begins when spiritual balance is re-established. Yet healing alone is not enough if the patterns that caused imbalance remain intact. This leads to the second truth: many struggles persist, not because healing is impossible, but because cycles of limitation are never broken. Cycles of limitation are patterns repeated across time, often across generations. They are habits of thought, belief systems, emotional reactions, and behavioral responses passed down consciously or unconsciously. These cycles shape identity long before awareness develops. People often inherit fear, scarcity, insecurity, and defeat without realizing it. A cycle continues until it is confronted. Awareness is the interruption point. Without awareness, repetition feels normal. Struggle becomes familiar. Limitation becomes identity. Breaking cycles requires the courage to question what has always been accepted as truth. Many cycles of limitation are rooted in language. Words spoken repeatedly form inner agreements. Statements like, "This is just how life is," "People like us never get ahead," or "Nothing ever changes," reinforce confinement. The mind begins to obey these declarations. The body follows the mind. The environment responds accordingly. Breaking cycles requires replacing inherited narratives with conscious truth. This does not happen through motivation alone. It requires reprogramming. Thought patterns must be observed, challenged, and restructured. Emotional responses must be examined rather than defended. Reaction must be replaced with intention. One of the strongest cycles of limitation is fear-based decision-making. When choices are made primarily to avoid loss rather than to pursue purpose, progress slows. Fear shrinks possibility. It prioritizes safety over growth. Breaking this cycle requires trust in process, in timing, and in inner guidance. Another limiting cycle is self-sabotage. Many unknowingly resist success because it threatens familiarity. Growth introduces responsibility, visibility, and accountability. For some, struggle feels safer than expansion. Breaking this cycle requires redefining identity, not as someone who survives, but as someone who builds, sustains, and leads. Cycles also persist through emotional attachment to the past. Pain that is never processed becomes a reference point. Decisions are filtered through old wounds rather than present reality. Healing the past is essential, but living in it recreates limitation. Breaking cycles requires honoring experience without allowing it to dictate the future. Discipline is a critical tool in breaking cycles. Not punishment, but structure. Consistent habits interrupt chaotic patterns. Small, intentional changes compound over time. The system responds to consistency. What is practiced becomes permanent. What is repeated becomes normal. Breaking cycles also involves separation from influences that reinforce limitation. Not everyone who was part of survival is meant to participate in expansion. This does not require rejection or resentment, but clarity. Growth often requires distance from environments, conversations, and mindsets that keep old patterns alive. Spiritual strength increases when responsibility replaces blame. Blame keeps cycles intact. Responsibility breaks them. When a person accepts ownership of their responses, choices, and direction, power is restored. Even when circumstances were not chosen, the response always is. As cycles break, healing deepens. The body no longer carries the burden of repetition. The mind relaxes. The spirit strengthens. Energy once consumed by survival becomes available for creation. This is where transformation becomes visible. Spiritual balance heals the internal environment. Breaking cycles of limitation reshapes the external pattern. Together, they create sustainable change. Without balance, healing is temporary. Without breaking cycles, progress is fragile. When both are addressed, life begins to move forward rather than in circles. Health stabilizes. Decisions sharpen. Peace becomes consistent rather than occasional. The system responds to alignment and awareness. This is the deeper work. Not surface change, but root transformation. When balance is restored and cycles are broken, healing is no longer something to chase, it becomes something to live. Faith is often spoken of as a belief, an idea, or a feeling, but in truth, faith is a force. It is not passive, it is not silent, it is active, shaping decisions, directing energy, and influencing outcomes long before results are visible. Faith is the unseen engine that moves life forward when logic reaches its limits. Without faith as a living force, progress becomes fragile. Motivation fades quickly and purpose loses direction. Faith operates even when people are unaware of it. Every decision made with confidence is an expression of faith. Every step taken into uncertainty is powered by faith. The question is not whether faith exists, but what it is attached to. When faith is placed in fear, outcomes shrink. When faith is placed in limitation, growth stalls. When faith is aligned with truth and purpose, life expands. A living faith does not wait for proof before acting. It understands that evidence follows movement, not the other way around. Many delay action until conditions feel perfect, until certainty appears, until risk disappears. But faith activates in uncertainty. It moves despite unanswered questions. It trusts process over control. Faith is demonstrated through obedience to inner conviction. When guidance is sensed internally and acted upon externally, faith becomes visible. Without action, faith remains theoretical. Living faith is expressed in daily choices, choosing integrity when shortcuts are tempting, choosing patience when pressure demands speed, choosing consistency when excitement fades. Fear and faith cannot dominate the same space simultaneously. One will always override the other. Fear magnifies obstacles, faith magnifies possibility. Fear asks, what if it fails? Faith asks, what if it works? The direction of the question determines the direction of the life. Faith also strengthens endurance. When results delay, faith sustains effort. When opposition arises, faith stabilizes emotion. When circumstances fluctuate, faith anchors identity. It is not denial of reality, it is confidence beyond it. Faith sees difficulty as temporary, not permanent. A living faith reshapes self-perception. It changes how challenges are interpreted. Instead of seeing resistance as rejection, faith sees preparation. Instead of viewing setbacks as defeat, faith recognizes refinement. This shift in interpretation preserves momentum. The journey continues because meaning has not been lost. Faith is also relational. It aligns the individual with purpose beyond self-interest. When faith becomes transactional, only activated to receive, it weakens. When faith becomes relational, rooted in trust and surrender, it strengthens. True faith is not about controlling outcomes, but cooperating with direction. As faith matures, it produces peace. Anxiety decreases not because problems disappear, but because confidence increases. Faith quiets the internal noise of doubt. It creates clarity where confusion once lived. This inner stability becomes visible externally through calm decision-making and consistent action. But faith alone is not the full equation. Faith activates the flow, and gratitude sustains it. Gratitude is not a courtesy, it is a posture. It is recognition of value, acknowledgement of provision, and awareness of progress. Gratitude changes perception. It trains the mind to notice growth instead of lack. One of the greatest tensions in life exists between timing and desire. Human urgency demands immediate results, quick answers, and fast breakthroughs. It measures success by speed and equates delay with failure. Yet the deeper system governing life does not respond to pressure, it responds to precision. This is where the conflict between divine timing and human urgency is revealed. Human urgency is driven by fear of falling behind, fear of missing out, fear of being overlooked. It rushes decisions, forces outcomes, and sacrifices wisdom for momentum. Urgency feels productive, but often produces instability. It creates movement without direction and action without alignment. Divine timing, by contrast, operates with intention. It is never late and never rushed. It unfolds according to readiness, not impatience. Timing considers internal preparation as seriously as external opportunity. When timing is right, effort multiplies. When timing is wrong, effort exhausts. Many opportunities fail not because they were wrong, but because they were premature. Acting too early can damage what would have succeeded later. A structure built before the foundation settles will crack under pressure. Timing protects purpose from collapse. Waiting is often misunderstood as inaction, but true waiting is active. It is a season of strengthening, learning, refining, and aligning. In these periods, character is developed, vision is clarified, and capacity is expanded. What feels like delay is often preparation in disguise. Human urgency wants answers now. Divine timing develops discernment first. Discernment prevents costly mistakes. It teaches when to move and when to pause. Those who master timing avoid unnecessary losses and preserve long-term stability. One of the hardest lessons is trusting timing when progress feels slow. Silence can feel like abandonment. Delay can feel like rejection. But timing is not about denial, it is about sequence. Certain things must happen in order. Skipping steps creates weakness. Pressure often pushes people to accept what is available rather than what is aligned. This leads to compromise. Compromise feels like relief in the moment, but creates regret later. Timing protects integrity by preventing premature agreement. Trusting timing requires surrendering control. Control seeks certainty, timing requires trust. This does not remove responsibility, it redirects it. Responsibility shifts from forcing outcomes to preparing capacity. Preparation is always within control. Those who respect timing learn patience without passivity. They stay alert, responsive, and disciplined. They do not drift, they develop. When the moment arrives, they are ready to act with confidence and clarity. Once timing aligns, momentum accelerates. What once required effort now flows. Resistance fades, doors open naturally. This is not coincidence, it is alignment. When preparation meets opportunity, progress becomes sustainable. But understanding timing is only half the journey. The deeper challenge is living the code daily. Insight without application produces inspiration without transformation. The code must move from awareness into practice. Living the code daily means consistency. Not perfection, but commitment. It is the daily choice to align thoughts, emotions, words, and actions with truth. Small decisions repeated over time shape destiny more powerfully than dramatic moments. Living the code requires discipline. Discipline is not restriction, it is direction. It protects focus. It preserves energy. It keeps priorities clear when distractions compete for attention. Discipline ensures that progress continues even when motivation fluctuates. Daily alignment begins with awareness. Awareness of thought patterns, emotional reactions, and habitual responses. What is unconscious controls behavior. What is conscious can be corrected. Living the code requires honest self-observation without judgment. The code is lived through integrity. Integrity is alignment between belief and behavior. When values guide actions, life stabilizes. Inconsistency creates internal conflict. Integrity removes it. Peace follows coherence. Living the code also involves continual refinement. Growth requires adjustment. What worked in one season may not work in the next. Flexibility is part of wisdom. Rigidity resists progress. The code favors adaptability anchored in principle. Service is a daily expression of the code. Purpose expands when life becomes about contribution. Impact multiplies when attention shifts outward. Service grounds success in meaning. It prevents emptiness at higher levels of achievement. Living the code means honoring balance. Work without rest leads to burnout. Rest without purpose leads to stagnation. Balance sustains energy. It allows progress without depletion. Balance is not static, it is responsive. The code is reinforced through gratitude in ordinary moments. Appreciation trains the mind to recognize growth even in routine. This sustains joy. When joy becomes habitual, resilience strengthens. Living the code daily also requires courage. Courage to say no when alignment is threatened. Courage to say yes when growth is uncomfortable. Courage to release what no longer fits. Courage to trust timing even when urgency screams. Community matters. Growth is strengthened through accountability and shared values. Isolation weakens perspective. Connection sharpens it. The code thrives in environments that reinforce truth and responsibility. Over time, living the code reshapes identity. A person no longer reacts impulsively but responds intentionally. Choices become clearer. Confidence becomes quieter. Peace becomes deeper. The goal is not a perfect life, but a principled one. Not constant success, but consistent growth. Living the code daily creates stability that sustains abundance, health, and fulfillment across seasons. When timing is respected and the code is lived daily, life no longer feels chaotic. Direction replaces confusion. Progress replaces stagnation. Purpose replaces